everyone. Before we begin today, we want to thank our newest patrons, Allie and Annika. Welcome to the team. Additionally, just wanted to give a disclaimer that in this episode, my audio is a little funky because I didn't select the right microphone when recording, and Becca's audio is a little funky because she was sick. But I hope you'll bear with us and enjoy this week's episode of Pod and Prejudice, covering chapters 15 and 16 of Mansfield Park. How was your holiday aside from being sick?
It was nice. Listeners, as you can tell from the dulcet tones of my voice, I am a sufferer of a sinus infection right now. Bear with me. I know my voice is usually so gorgeous to listen to, but today it's a little bit. What's the right word for what's happening here?
It's snotty.
Congested, stuffy. Yeah, I think about that episode of Friends. Have you seen the one where Phoebe gets sick and she sings and she realizes she sounds like Billie Holiday when she
Yes.
has phlegm in her throat? That
Uh-huh.
is not my experience. I asked Mike if I sounded nice singing the blues, and he said without skipping a beat, "You do not."
Well, yeah, and you know what? That's honesty for you. That's
Yeah,
what we need in a partner.
exactly. Like no support, just sheer bluntness.
Yeah.
This is Becca.
This is Molly.
We are here to talk about Jane Austen.
We are here specifically to talk about
Mansfield
Park.
Park. Listeners, if you're new here, I, Becca, have read many Jane Austen novels through my lifetime.
And I, Molly, am reading all of her books for the first time through this podcast.
If you want to hear Molly read through Pride and Prejudice, Sense and Sensibility, Emma, or Persuasion for the first time, you can listen to seasons 1, 2, 3, and 4 of this podcast, respectively, but that is not what we're doing here today.
No, today we are talking about Mansfield Park, Volume the First, chapters 15 and 16.
AKA more theater kid drama.
Yes, it's just, I wonder how much of this book is going to be about this play at this point.
You would not be the first person to ask that question while reading Mansfield Park.
Yeah, it is quite a lot about the play, and I'm loving it. I love a plot line that's easy to follow, simple. Edmund hates theater.
Well, does he? We'll get into it.
Does he? That's a good question. That's a good question.
So listeners, to pick up where we left off, Big T is back in town. He brought his buddy, Mr. Yates, and the two of them are up to shenanigans because they've gotten everybody excited to do a play, which Edmund disapproves of, and they've chosen Lover's Vows, which, as we've established, is tawdry material for young people.
Tawdry is a good word.
Tawdry material.
Mansfield Park, tawdry material. That's the subtitle.
Yeah, exactly.
So, to get into where we are now, chapter 15 begins. Miss Crawford has accepted the part of Amelia, the ingenue.
Yes, indeed.
And Mr. Rushworth arrives and is offered either Count Castle or Anhalt, and chooses the Count.
This is a fabulous portion, especially because, as we've discussed, Anhalt is the love interest to another woman, and his fiance, who he's extremely engaged to, is in this play.
Yes.
Yeah.
Wait, in the story, Anhalt is the love interest of
Amelia.
Right.
So just to recap what we know about Lover's Vows, which is very little, Agatha, who Maria is playing, is mother of Frederick, who Henry is playing.
Classic lovers roles.
Exactly. Which in the context of the story is important insofar as the fact that like the two of them have a lot of emotional scenes together.
Mm-hmm.
And like are kind of like, I think, the leads of the play. And then B plot is Amelia and Anhalt, who are the lovers.
Yes.
And Anhalt is a sort of stuffy priest who falls in love with very charming and flirty Amelia. Yeah. So
art imitates life.
Life imitates art.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have the fact that Rushworth comes and he's like, who should I play? And his fiance is like, oh, you can play the love interest to another woman, or you can play this other part. And luckily for everybody involved, he chooses the other part.
And Maria, quote, cannot sympathize in his wish that the Count and Agatha might act together. AKA, she's thrilled.
So the Count apparently has no scenes with Maria.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, oh no.
Oh no.
Oh no.
She helps him cut down all his speeches so that he's essentially saying the bare minimum, and tells him that he's going to need to really dress up. And he's very excited about the dress up, but he pretends that he's not. This is his thing the entire set of chapters is he's like, "Oh, I don't know if I'm gonna like wearing all of that finery. Ask me about it."
Oh, no. Will I have to wear something lacy? Oh, no.
Will I have to wear a satin robe? Oh, no.
Oh, dear.
And he is so caught up in his own costumes that he has no time to feel disappointed about his actual role, which is good.
Yeah.
Then Edmund comes home, and I don't actually think I realized that he wasn't here for all of the casting discussions.
Nope, he does not even know the play.
He doesn't even know that they've settled on a play.
Yes.
Rushworth is the one to tell him, and the way that he tells him is he comes up and he is like, "Oh my gosh, guess what I have to wear? A lacy blue dress. Do you think I'm gonna like it? I don't know if I'm gonna like it." And Edmund's like, "Hang on." He
What?
looks around. He's like, "What?" He's looking around. He thinks that someone's surely going to contradict the fact that they're doing lovers' vows, but Yates tells him it's true, and they've almost cast the whole thing.
I'm picturing in this moment, you know those moments in a movie where there's, like, a really intense close-up on someone and they go, "No!"
Yeah.
I'm picturing this moment for Edmund. It's kind of like the thing that
Hagrid!
oh, I was thinking of, because it's the holidays, I just recently rewatched Home Alone, I was thinking, "Kevin!"
So Edmund looks at Mariah and asks how they're handling the women of it all. And she blushes because she knows that she should not be playing Agatha, but she is. And she says, Miss Crawford is playing Amelia, and gives him kind of a look. And Edmund says, well, and he's kind of pissed at this point. He's like, I wouldn't have thought we could fill all the roles with this particular group. And he turns away to the fire, where Fanny, Mrs. Norris, and Lady Bertram are all hanging out. And then Rushworth pipes up to say, guess what? I have 3 scenes and 42 speeches, which Edmund ignores.
I think speeches is like lines, because 42
Yeah.
speeches would be a lot.
42 speeches is lines because I remember from my Shakespeare days that they call every line a speech.
Yeah.
Like not necessarily every line of text, but every time your
Time
character
you
speaks.
speak, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. After a bit, Tom, Yates, and Rushworth all leave the room to go deal with the carpenter and the building of the sets. And while they're gone, Edmund begs Mariah to reconsider. He says, if she just reads the first act out loud, she will see that it is unfit for a private performance. Mariah says, no, I know the play well, and I think that with just a few cuts, there's nothing objectionable in it. And besides, I'm not the only young lady participating. And again, giving him a look. And he's like, yeah, I'm not thrilled about that. But in this case, you, Mariah, have to lead and be an example. And this has some effect on Mariah because she loves to be an example. She loves to lead.
Yeah, she loves to be the woman thought of as, like, the top woman, the alpha.
Yeah, because she's engaged.
She is extremely, and this cannot be stressed enough, she's, like, super engaged.
Yeah. She says, okay, I know you mean well, but she thinks that he's overreacting and she doesn't want to harangue the others on this subject because that would be more indecorous than actually just doing the play. Harangue in this instance meaning lecturing.
Yeah.
And Edmund says, I don't want you to harangue them, just let your conduct be an example, like lead by example. And if she says, upon examination that she doesn't want to do the part anymore, the others are going to give it up too. Then Lady Bertram, who is in the room, says, yeah, don't say anything improper. Sir Thomas wouldn't like it. And then asks Fanny to ring the bell for her dinner. And then Edmund says, yes, Sir Thomas definitely would not like it. But then Mariah says, if I turn the part down, you know who's going to take it? Julia. And he's like, even if she knows your reasons? And Mariah says that she would think that she doesn't need to take the same kind of precaution as me, as Mariah.
Do you think this is true?
Do I think Julia would take the part if Mariah turned it down?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I do, because I think that, one, Julia wants to, I mean, I know that she's pissed at this point and she knows that Henry doesn't want her and she's not engaged, so she doesn't have anything to actually stop her from taking the part. But I think that she would do it just to spite everyone.
Okay.
Yeah, that's my prediction. I believe her. Yeah. I think so. Mariah decides she's not gonna withdraw from the play. She doesn't wanna disappoint everyone. Plus, if they're so very nice, which in this case means fastidious or scrupulous, they will never end up putting on a play. To which Mrs. Norris agrees and says, "Yes, and then all of our preparations would have been a waste of money," which is the most important thing to her, obviously.
Yeah. And it's very important that Mrs. Norris makes a point of being like, "I have not read this, but if Mariah likes it, then it's fine."
She's like, Mariah says that anything improper can just be cut. Like, why not? Plus, Rushworth is acting in it too. So there really is no harm in Mariah acting in it. Then she goes off about how useful she's been in preventing the waste of time and money in the preparations, which launches her into a story about how young Dick Jackson, who is the son of the carpenter, had been coming towards the house with 2 pieces of wood, just as she heard the servants' dinner bell ringing. And so she intercepted him, took the boards from him, said she would deliver them to his dad, and told him to go home. I think implying that he was coming to eat their food. And
Yes.
she was like,
Yes.
"You get out of
No,
here."
can't have that.
Yeah.
Can't have that. You just carry a bunch of wooden planks to our massive manor home, you cannot even have the servants' dinner.
She sucks.
Mrs. Norris?
Yeah.
I find that weird. She's famously the most likable character Jane Austen ever wrote.
Yeah, so beloved.
Yeah.
So dinner that night is awkward because nobody wants to talk to the play around Edmund. Plus, I thought this was interesting. John Yates, wants to be agreeable to Julia, who is in a state of not wanting to hear about this play, obviously.
Hmm.
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 And Rushworth only pays attention to his own role, and he's already talked enough about the clothes and the number of lines that he has, so he has nothing more to say. So nobody's talking at dinner. But after dinner, the cast gathers to talk about the play while they sit around, the fire at a table, and then the Crawfords arrive. And Mary Crawford goes to Lady Bertram and congratulates her on a play being chosen, because she knows that she must be sick of all of their arguing about what play to do at this point. She says, "I congratulate you and everyone else who's in your predicament as a spectator," and then looks at Edmund, who ignores her.
Yeah, she's using Lady Bertram as a sort of proxy for Edmund to be like, "Aren't you glad that at least that settled? I know we were driving you crazy."
Mhm.
And it's like, he's like, "You misunderstand what was driving me crazy."
Yeah. Edmund is so annoying, but anyway. And I actually have sympathy for Mary Crawford in this set of chapters, but we'll get into it.
We will definitely get into it.
So then Mary goes to the table and asks who is to play Anhalt. The quote is, "What gentleman among you am I to have the pleasure of making love to?"
This is a crazy line, and it's so good.
It's so good.
"Whom amongst you will I have the pleasure of making love to?" Mary Crawford, you saucy ass minx.
She is, like, so saucy. The first time I read it, I was like, "Oh, yeah, that's just how they all said flirting back in the day." But, like, girl, you know what you said.
No, she is being sexy here.
Yeah. And you know what? It works. Works on me. I don't know. I thought it was sexy.
Are you lusting for Mary like Edmund now?
I can absolutely see why one would,
Yes.
you know? Rushworth says that he had been given the option to play Anhalt, but he had chosen the Count. And Mary is, of course, relieved by this and says that he chose right, since Anhalt is such a heavy role. And then Rushworth goes, "The Count has 42 speeches, which is no trifle." And then Tom says, "I would take it, but the butler and Anhalt are in scenes together." But he says that he'll see what he can do if there's any way to splice it for him to play it. I still think that Tom has a little thing for Mary, even if, like, that ship has sailed. I'm not convinced that he knows it's sailed.
Our listeners have also pointed out, and it's something that I have had on, like, the periphery of reading this book, that there is a bit of, a gay vibe coming off of Tom in some portions.
Oh. Huh. I'll have to consider that.
Noodle on
Yeah,
it.
I'm gonna noodle on that. I guess I could see that, but I'll have to think about it while I'm
Yeah.
reading the book. Yeah.
And obviously, like, as much as you and I are sad about this, there's not a lot of active queer text in Jane Austen.
Yeah.
So we have to read in what might be there.
Exactly.
But it is an interesting sort of layer on the text to think maybe Tom's not that interested in ladies for whatever reason.
I mean, that would be a fun read on it, particularly because he disappeared for a while in the beginning and didn't write to Mary Crawford.
Yeah.
So who knows what he was doing when he was horse betting?
Good question.
Hmm.
What are any of us doing when we're horse betting?
Failing, that's for sure. So Yates suggests to Tom that maybe his brother should take the part. And Tom is like, I'm not asking him that. So then Mary goes back to the fire, which is where the others who aren't involved in the play are sitting, and she asks Edmund, listen, I know you don't act. As an objective observer, what do you think we should do about Anhalt? And he says, I think you should change the play. And she says she wouldn't mind that, but everyone else has their heart set on it, so there's really nothing to be done. And then she says, if any part could tempt you to act, wouldn't it be Anhalt since he's a clergyman?
Don't you want to be the one making love to me on stage, Edmund?
Ah. And he has a lot of pent up resentment in his reply, so I just want to read it out loud.
Yep.
He says, that circumstance would by no means tempt me, for I should be sorry to make the character ridiculous by bad acting. It must be very difficult to keep Anhalt from appearing a formal, solemn lecturer, and the man who chooses the profession itself is perhaps one of the last who would wish to represent it on the stage. I found that had a lot of callbacks to their former conversations about the clergy, where she was saying that the people who choose the clergy are like boring rote lecturers and generally bad people.
Yep. Clearly there's a mismatch. And I think it's also like Mary just doesn't take the things seriously that Edmund takes seriously.
Yes.
And for her, why would it bother him so much to portray a clergyman on the stage?
I think he perhaps worries about like a caricature.
Yeah, it's also a mockery of the morals that he's espousing.
Well, yeah.
She doesn't see the difference between acting those morals and living those morals. So she's like, wouldn't you want to do this? Because you're going to be this anyway. And he's like, no, there's a big difference between pretending to have those morals and actually living them and embodying them for a parish.
Right.
So this is a big snipe.
Yeah. This kind of shuts her up, and she goes to sit with Mrs. Norris because she doesn't have anything to say in response. Then Tom calls out to Fanny from across the room, saying they need her services. And he then says that they want her to play the cottager's wife, which, as we'll remember, is like the worst role in the whole thing.
Absolutely.
She's like, oh my God, no, 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 sits back down. She's like, I can't act. And Tom's like, don't worry, it's just 6 lines. It doesn't matter if we can even hear them. You can mumble them. We just need a body on stage. And then I laughed at this because then Rushworth goes, if you're afraid of a half a dozen speeches, what would you do with such a part as mine? I have 42 to learn. What a doof.
Yep.
Fanny is very uncomfortable because everyone is staring at her and she's the only person talking. And she doesn't like to be the center of attention. And she says, it's not that I'm afraid of learning lines, I just can't act. And Tom says, you're going to act well enough for our purposes. Plus, I'll be the cottager. I'll push you around the stage when you need to move. Again, she denies him. And then Tom, again, ignores her and starts planning out her costume, which involves old person makeup. She then looks to Edmund for help, but he doesn't fucking say anything. He just gives her an encouraging smile.
Oh, Edmund.
This girl is floundering out here. You can see that she doesn't want to act. Why haven't you said anything yet?
Yeah, and it's also just like it takes so much for Fanny to refuse one of the Bertrams, as you can see.
Yeah, the fact that she's standing up for herself at all is big.
Yeah.
So then everyone starts ganging up on her, and eventually Mrs. Norris tells her off, saying, how dare she make this difficult for her cousins who have always been so good to her, just take the damn part. And at this, Edmund finally speaks up and says, listen, it's not fair to urge her to act when she clearly doesn't want to. Why don't we just let her choose for herself? We can trust her judgment, which is big because they all think of her as not being able to think for herself.
I mean, also, like, what they're basically doing here is they're asking her to be a part of the scenery. Like, they are like, oh, we literally just need a body on the stage. They don't care what she wants or what she thinks. Like, they're not thinking about her as a creature with feelings.
Right. But she is.
Of course she is. She has very intense feelings.
Very intense. Norris says, "Fine, I won't urge her, but I will think her very obstinate and ungrateful if she doesn't act, considering who and what she is."
You could hear a pin drop after that.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that line.
Fanny's gonna go and deliberate on it all night, and I can see why, because it's been how many years now since she got dropped off there? And she got there when she was 8.
I thought it was 10.
Oh, so she's been there 8 years now, and they're still, or Mrs. Norris is still not only thinking of her as, like, lesser than and a charity case, but now is saying this to a full room of people who are relatively new to Fanny's life.
Yeah.
Like, that's so embarrassing.
Yeah, and I have more thoughts on this, but I'm gonna save them for the study questions
Okay.
because I think it's a longer discussion, but I think that's all right.
Yeah. Okay. So Edmund is too angry to speak. But Mary Crawford is so surprised by this, and she sees that Fanny is about to cry, that she goes over to sit by Fanny and murmurs to her that everyone is cross and teasing this evening and to not pay attention to them. She sits there comforting her, and she gives her own brother, Henry, a look to say, "Let's drop this for now." And Henry receives the message, they drop it, and Mary Crawford continues to comfort Fanny, who feels very grateful to Miss Crawford for this. Miss Crawford asks her if she's preparing to come out, and she asks her about her brother at sea, saying that she's curious about him. She imagines that he's a fine young fellow. She tells Fanny to get a portrait of him done before he goes to sea again, and all this talk of William makes me think, Mary Crawford and William,
Hmm.
perhaps? Becca will neither confirm nor
I
deny.
will neither confirm nor deny. Yeah, this moment is really, I think, an important one
Yes.
for a lot of reasons, not only of which I can hear the way you're talking about Mary Crawford, and it's a little different now.
Yeah. I mean, it's the first time that she's shown any. I mean, she's not been an unlikable character up to this point. She's been, like, a controversial character, I think, for the time and for the rest of the characters, but she's doing something kind of really likable here.
Yeah, I mean, she basically, like we talk about saving the puppy or saving the kitten as, like, the ultimate act of, like, making a character likable in the book. I find it really interesting that Austen chooses to have Mary Crawford save the puppy in this moment.
Mhm.
Not to diminish Fanny and her feelings at all, but this is a moment of, like, everybody else fails, and Mary Crawford shows immense kindness to Fanny,
Mhm.
and if you kind of look back, I raised this a couple times while we were talking about it, there are these ambiguous moments where Mary is nice to Fanny, but you don't know if she sees her as a rival, if she's being condescending, or if she's actually being nice. This moment is not ambiguous, she's just genuinely, like, being good to Fanny in this moment.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting what it does for the story, or at least for, like, how I'm feeling about the other characters, because obviously I wouldn't expect anything from anyone else, but I expect something from Edmund, and he does not deliver in this moment. He tries to, but he doesn't. When it counts, he's too angry to speak, which I feel like is a failing on his end, and the only person who steps up is this outsider who we've talked about, like, how other people view how people treat Fanny.
Fanny's rival in this moment.
Right,
The person that is the bane of Fanny's current existence.
right. I would love. I don't need it to be gay, I really don't. What I would love is for them to form a friendship over Edmund fucking up somehow.
I will neither confirm nor deny.
Cool. So Tom then calls to Mary and tells her that he cannot play Anhalt. He's done the math. There's too many scenes together. But he is sure there will be no difficulty in finding an Anhalt if they put the word out to the general public. He can already think of 2 men off the top of his head who would do a good job and who would be willing to play with them. Mariah looks to Edmund, thinking he's definitely going to oppose this because it would be an enlargement of their plans beyond the scope of, like, what they were originally planning to do. But Edmund says nothing. Then Mariah says out of the men that he's mentioned, she would like Charles Maddox to be the guy because she's met him before and she doesn't want to play against a stranger. And Tom's like, okay, great, I'll go to him in the morning. And then Julia, who is also here, by the way, nobody's like
Yep.
talking aside from the people talking about the play, but Julia's here and she goes, the Mansfield theatricals would enliven the whole neighborhood, and looks at Edmund. But again, nothing. Mary then confides to Fanny that she's not thrilled about this development. She doesn't want to play against a stranger, and she's going to shorten both of their speeches before rehearsing together because she wants to kind of minimize the amount of time playing with him. And that's the end of that chapter.
That is the end of that chapter. Eventful.
Very eventful. So that brings us to chapter 16. Fanny goes to bed in a tizzy. She is upset about having been asked to act in front of everyone, and then to have been told she was ungrateful, and the hint at the dependence of her situation, the who and what she is, in front of everyone. And she is dreading what tomorrow might bring with regard to this request of her.
Yeah.
In the morning, she is still thinking about it and she needs some more room to pace. So she goes to her second room, which is the former schoolroom. This room has been out of use as a school for 3 years, but Fanny keeps her plants in there. She's a plant girly.
Yeah, she is.
And she reads the books and she spends most of her time in that room, so everyone thinks of it as hers.
This room is we'll talk about it. You're gonna give the full description. This room is such a vibe.
Yeah, it's giving like Belle or Anne Hathaway's bedroom in The Princess Diaries, or like I don't know, it's just like it's this little nook with books and plants and a window seat.
I mean, Fanny in general is really a Cinderella type character,
Yeah.
but this room in particular reminds me not of like Cinderella, but honestly, what it reminds me of is a really tiny apartment in New York City.
Yeah.
Like the girlies set up their little studios to be like covered in books and like little trinkets and plants,
Yeah.
and I can just see it all.
Yeah, it's very cool. Even Mrs. Norris thinks of it as hers, with the stipulation that they're not adding a fire to the room. But Fanny doesn't need a fire because she's got her window and she can time it out so that she's warm enough in the winter. So everyone basically approves of her having a room that no one else wanted, which, is very Cinderella. And it even says that the way Mrs. Norris speaks of the indulgence, you would think that it's the best room in the house, which is clearly not,
No.
but it is cozy. The room is her favorite place, and it always brings her comfort. Everything is a friend or reminds her of a friend. She's got memories in all of the furniture, and it says even though she's suffered abuse, the abuse always led to someone consoling her, occasionally Lady Bertram, Mrs. Lee, but mostly Edmund. So every former affliction has its charm. Which is a little bit
Sad.
sad. Yeah, it's a little gaslighty of herself. But she wouldn't change the ratty furniture for the best in the house. In the room, she has a collection of family portraits that are thought not good enough to be displayed anywhere else in the house, and a sketch of a boat that William did. And now she goes to the room to see if by looking at Edmund's portrait, she can catch some of his wisdom, which is a little weird.
Jane Austen is so funny.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just picturing her going up there and being like, gosh, Edmund, what do you think I should do? Which, he literally lives there.
It's not just that, it's the juxtaposition of this moment with what is right about to follow.
Yes. Yeah. Yes.
Like, Jane Austen is so funny.
She is very funny.
We look to Edmund for our wisdom, and then cue the It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia theme music.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Fanny starts to doubt her decision and all of her reasonings for not wanting to do the play. And then she's looking around the room and she's seeing everything as a gift from her cousins, which it's not, but she doesn't value herself enough to think of it as her own. So she sees it like that, and then she's feeling guilty. And then who should come in but Edmund, saying he needs her opinion.
What wisdom is Edmund about to drop on Fanny here?
Well, he's stressed about bringing Charles Maddox into the mix. He thinks it's too intimate. It's too much familiarity. And he thinks that if it's possible to prevent it, they should. Fanny agrees with this, and she says, but there's nothing to be done. And he says, well, there's one option, and only one. I must take Anhalt myself. Yeah.
There's a comp here to something in the culture. I can't think of it because I'm too annoyed with Edmund.
Yeah. It's it feels very much a classic putting aside your own morals for the hot girl.
Yeah, and in this particular instance, like, it's fucking embarrassing.
It is embarrassing because he's just spent, like, 3 days talking about how they can't do this play, it's so ill-fitted for private performance, like, he has been going to the mattresses against this play, and now is gonna be in it.
Yep, and he's like, "Nope, it's fine. I will actually take the part.
Yeah.
I will actually take a lead role."
Yeah. Fanny is speechless, and he is like, "Listen, I don't wanna seem inconsistent. I know how it's gonna look, but I just can't think of an alternative, and I'm wondering if you can." And Fanny's like, "Well, not immediately, but" and he's like, "But what?" He's like, "I can tell you disagree, but I need you to think it over." Again, asking her for her advice, but then guiding her advice to be, "I agree with you, Edmund." And after telling off Mrs. Norris for trying to guide her one way or the other when being asked to take a part, now he's doing the same thing.
Yeah, first of all, no, "How are you, Fanny?" after what Mrs. Norris did to embarrass you.
Right,
Straight to his problem. Number 2, it is once again Edmund doing what he's done before, where he's not actually asking for Fanny's advice. He is using Fanny as a sounding board for his own internal debate.
right. What really pisses me off is that he knows that what he's doing is fucked up, and he couldn't stop thinking about that and couldn't stop thinking about how he knows it's wrong, and he needs his moral compass, Fanny, to tell him, "It's okay. You're gonna be fine. Like, I forgive you. I think what you're doing is right." And she's not giving him that, and so he's trying to make her give him that.
Yeah, so he has an end goal he wants,
Yeah,
and he is working backward to justify it, and he's using Fanny as, like, a mini me to basically debate himself into doing it.
right.
Like, convincing Fanny means convincing himself.
Yeah, and I think it says something that, like, I do think that he values her opinion, but he will only really value her opinion if she gives him the answer that he wants. It's kind
Which
of a
isn't
weird.
valuing her opinion.
It's not, but he, like, thinks he values her. He makes it out like he values her opinion. I feel like he views her as, like I said, the moral compass of the situation, and it's complicated. Like, I mean, obviously what he's doing isn't that complicated, but it's how he feels about her, and her opinion is complicated, I think. It's frustrating.
Do you wanna unpack it more, or are you good there?
I think I'm good. I'm sure we'll talk about it more as time goes on.
Yes.
So he says, Listen, maybe you're not aware of the consequences of what a man being admitted into our company in this manner would be. He would have no restraints. He would be allowed to come at all hours. He would be made to feel like he's one of us, which he cannot. And he says, Listen, consider Mary Crawford. What would it be like to act with a stranger, especially that role? And he says he heard her last night when she said to Fanny that she didn't want to do that. Fanny says she is sorry for Miss Crawford, but she's more sorry to see Edmund drawn into something that he was so set against. It will be such a triumph to the others. He had a funny line where he was like, "Not when they see how I act," which is,
Lol.
lol. But he thinks if he can restrain the publicity of this whole business, keep it private, he must do it, even if it means that he has to, like, go back on his morals. And as it is now, nobody's gonna listen to him, but if he agrees to act, he may be able to convince them to at least keep it to a smaller audience than they're currently dreaming of, which, like, hasn't been his goal up till now, but, he suddenly is like, "Alright, well, if I can't get them to cancel the play, at least I can keep them to a smaller audience."
Well, to be fair, he always did want it to be a very small audience because, like, reading a play out loud is very different than, like, publicizing a play for others to go to.
Right. No, totally. But he's given up on the canceling the play portion of it because now he wants to play on halt.
Yes, I mean, who is it that Mary will make love to Mary Crawford if not Edmund?
You think he changed his mind as soon as he heard her say that?
No, I think that was, like, the moment of temptation,
Yeah.
and then from there, lots of things like, to be f if we're being generous to Edmund here, which I don't really feel like being, but we can be if we want to for a moment, he is correct that it is a different thing if they have to bring another person in.
Yeah, I'm not saying he's wrong.
No, I'm saying he's wrong, but no, I think there is legitimate reason why it is noble for him to try to like limit the effect of the play on everyone. But clearly he's speaking from a place of I want to make love to Mary Crawford, not necessarily just from a this is the only thing I can do. Hands to the wall, like I've got my back up. I got nothing to do except like I just have to sacrifice this. Oh no, I have to spend the next few weeks flirting with this girl incessantly on stage. What am I to do?
Yeah. Yeah. Fanny says, yes, it will be good to limit the audience, but he can tell that she still doesn't approve. He begs for her approval, saying he is not comfortable without it. And she's very flattered by this, obviously, but she doesn't know what to say. And he says, if you're against me, I know I shouldn't trust myself. Like, once again, referring to her as his moral compass, but he just can't let them parade around the country asking people to act. And he would have thought Fanny would at least care about Miss Crawford's feelings. Fanny says, I do, and I'm sure this plan will be a relief to her. And he says Miss Crawford was very kind to Fanny last night, which gave her a strong claim on his goodwill, which feels like a little bit of a change of subject on his part.
It feels to me a little manipulative because he's like, well, we want Miss Crawford to be okay. And wasn't she so nice to you last night?
Yeah.
Like, don't you owe her this?
Right. Yeah. The placement of that is smart on his part. Fanny says, yeah, she was very kind to me last night, and I'm glad to have her spared, but she can't go any farther than that. Like, she can't say that he's right. Edmund then says, okay, I'm going to go tell her after breakfast. I'm going to tell Tom now so that we'll all be in a good mood at breakfast. And then I'm going to go tell Mary Crawford that I'm going to play Anhalt. And now I'm going to let you read. Thanks, Fanny. So he goes. But Fanny cannot read. She can't focus. She's too confused. After all his public objections, for Edmund to be acting is just too much. She thinks he's being very inconsistent, and she blames Miss Crawford for this, obviously. And she's just so miserable that she no longer cares whether she ends up having to act. And that's the end of that chapter.
Which brings us to the study questions in this very, very meaty set of chapters. Now, listeners, if you want to have us answer your questions on the air, you can join our Patreon at the $15 tier. Molly puts out a Google Doc. Submit your questions there. Then we take questions from the Google Doc and answer them on the air. All right. Avi asks, Mary Crawford protected Fanny in these chapters in a way that no one had done before. Does this change how you feel about Mary Crawford? And what about the way you think about Fanny's thoughts about her?
Yes, it changes how I feel about Mary Crawford. Like, I definitely feel softer towards her. I feel like she does have merits. Like, I don't hate her. Like, I think that was really good of her. In terms of how I think Fanny thinks about her, it's complicated because, like, obviously Fanny was very grateful to her, but we still end the chapter with her blaming Mary Crawford for how Edmund is reacting here. And I think that she senses that he has a thing for Mary Crawford and is only doing this to get that booty. So I feel like there's some jealousy there. And also maybe she thinks of her as a little bit slutty.
Oh, yeah. So nothing about Mary Crawford's conduct here truly changes Fanny's problem with Mary Crawford.
Right.
Which is that Mary Crawford is moving in on her man.
Right. Her man, who is also her first cousin, just to like remind us.
Yeah, they are definitely cousins.
But
fine.
Fanny
does want to bang.
Yes.
It's Jane Austen. The cousins will marry.
We need to get that merge made. Yeah. I'll work on it.
So, yeah, I think that that's definitely still a problem. And I think that also just like the truth of like Mary Crawford being a sort of corrupting influence on Edmund is still obviously here. So for Fanny, it's obviously this wonderful moment for her that Mary has come to her and she can feel grateful for it, but still upset with Mary as a person.
Yeah.
For us as listeners and readers, it's difficult to ignore like the sheer kindness of the moment.
Yeah. Also, like, it reminds us that people can be a little slutty and be wonderful people.
Honestly, amen to that.
Yeah.
Like, sluts are the nicest people on the face of the planet.
We love sluts.
We love sluts. We are sluts.
Yeah. We've been through our slutty phases.
Exactly. Who hasn't among us?
Yeah.
I think that's, like, the interesting thing about reading Mansfield Park, not only through a modern lens, but thinking about and this ties into a study question of mine, so I'll bring it up, what Jane Austen is doing with Mary Crawford as a character,
Mhm.
because it's not like Jane wants all of her characters to be perfect in
Right.
any way, but she knows how to write a true villain. See, in this book alone, Mrs. Norris,
Mhm.
who has, I think, nary a redeeming quality.
0.
Whereas Mary clearly is a flawed human being, clearly flawed, the main antagonist to our leading lady, and also someone who clearly has problems that we should take umbrage with. But she also has a real sense of sympathy and kindness to her that pops out in this moment. And so Jane is writing a complex character for us to grapple with while we're dealing with a heroine who is not as poppy and bright as some of her others, and I think it just makes for a more interesting story. It'd be a worse story if Mary Crawford sucked
Totally. And, like, we've been there, done that.
entirely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I also think there is the fact that, or at least I think, that Mary doesn't necessarily see Fanny as a rival because she's kind of infantilizes her, or has up until this point, and I think still probably does, where she, like, sees her as kind of a younger charity case taken on by the family, especially after this moment with
There's
Norris.
certainly pity there, which is
Yeah,
never appealing.
right, but she doesn't necessarily think that Fanny is in love with Edmund.
Oh, she definitely doesn't. I mean, in the, like, way this is reading so far.
Right. So I wonder if it would be different if she thought that.
It's interesting to say because would even if she knew, do you think she would be threatened?
I don't think she would be threatened, but I don't know that she would show as much kindness to Fanny as she did in this moment.
Interesting.
Yeah.
All right. Janae asks, why is Mrs. Norris so cruel to Fanny? What does it say about the Crawfords and the Bertrams that no one apart from Miss Crawford really comes to Fanny's defense or tries to make her feel better?
It says that Mrs. Norris sucks.
Yes.
That's why she's so cruel to Fanny, she sucks. To put it in more, intellectual terms, she's classist and uppity and thinks that she's better than everyone, and she needs someone to be poorer than she is, and she needs someone to look down on so that she can feel good about herself. The Crawfords and the Bertrams
Save Mary.
save Mary. It shows that they all are more like Mrs. Norris than maybe they would care to believe, particularly Edmund. That's, like, a really fucked up thing for him not to, like, defend her in that moment. I wouldn't have expected anything better from the rest of the Bertrams, especially because they all agree with Mrs. Norris in the fact that they think of Fanny as lesser than her, and I think Henry Crawford is self-centered and wasn't paying attention.
Nice. All right. I don't want to give a lot away about this, but I think there are a couple things I want to highlight here. First, about Mrs. Norris, I think her words are very intentionally written by Jane Austen.
Mhm,
She calls her ungrateful.
mhm.
And I think that's a direct tie-in to the speech that Mrs. Norris gives Fanny when she first comes to Mansfield Park,
Yeah.
which is essentially your existence in this home and your life is conditional
Mhm.
on your good behavior because of who and what you are.
Yeah.
The fact of Fanny's existence at Mansfield Park as conditional on her good behavior constantly is something we see exhibited by Fanny in all of her behavior. But it is not something we hear voiced by the other characters as frequently.
Right.
But it shows that even though this is her home, and basically the only home she's known since she was a child, is something that can be taken away from her if she doesn't always acquiesce to this group of people. And that I think sometimes we can shit on Fanny for being a stick up the butt kind of girly. But the way that she is, the way that she operates is built from this knowledge of her conditional existence
Yeah,
in this place.
and the fact that nobody else ever really says it outright, but then when Mrs. Norris does, nobody comes to her aid from her family shows that they all think of her that way too.
Yeah. And even if they don't think of her as conditional as Norris does, because without saying too much, like, I think Norris is harsher on her than the rest of them,
Mhm.
in part because Norris is lower class than the rest of them.
Yes.
But they don't perceive her as a creature whose feelings should be taken care of and validated.
Right.
I do think Edmund is separate on that front, but he still sees Fanny as an extension of himself.
Yeah. And he takes her for granted.
Well, in that moment, he's too angry to speak, which good on him. He should be angry. It was a bad thing to say.
Mhm.
But in that moment, he's focused on his own experience, his own anger, not what Fanny needs in that moment.
Yeah.
So I think it's just like everyone is so obsessed with themselves here that they don't think of the fact that this is like a devastating thing to hear from Fanny. And Norris obviously needs to continue to enforce Fanny as the lesser. Because if Fanny's the lesser, then Norris is not the least.
Exactly.
Okay, that concludes our patron study questions. So we're going to move on to the Becca study questions. Let's talk about Edmund even more about his character in this piece. First of all, I said, do you buy his reasoning?
I think that his reasoning is sound. Do I believe that that's why he decided to play this role? No.
I think that's exactly right. In some ways, it is a little bit like Rushworth with his silly costume, where he's like, "Oh no,
Yeah.
I have to wear my lace.
Yeah.
Oh no."
Yeah, Edmund's like, "Oh no, the only option to not have this play paraded around the town is for me to play Anhalt?"
Oh God, my only way to save the reputation of my two sisters is by flirting with Mary Crawford on a stage. Oh no.
Oh no.
But I think, what does this tell us about Edmund as a character?
In this moment, he's thinking with his dick, and I think that he's
Horny on Maine.
he's horny on Maine. I think that it shows that, like, he is flawed beyond, what we've already talked about. He's not a perfect angel clergyman baby, Like, he's not gonna stick to his guns always the way that he, like, gets up on his high horse and claims that he will.
And this next question is a tie-in to this prior question. What do we make of Edmund's conduct in this chapter compared to Fanny's conduct in these chapters?
Right, because they ask her to take a role, and she doesn't do it.
And again, Fanny is refusing her benefactors,
Mhm.
knowing her existence is conditional. But she thinks, one, she does not want to act because she is shy. But so she's standing up for her wants and beliefs. Two, she's against the play. She thinks it's a disgrace.
Yeah. Although I will say that when she is denying, like, actively denying the role, it doesn't come up that she thinks the play is a disgrace. Even in her head, she just doesn't wanna act.
Well, it's interesting because when she's thinking about it, she is thinking about the play being a moral disgrace,
Later
as well
on.
as the fact that she doesn't want to act.
Yeah.
But she doesn't say it out loud. Why doesn't she say it out loud?
I think she doesn't say it out loud because maybe she doesn't want to be contradictory of what they all want. She just doesn't want she doesn't think that, like, saying she doesn't wanna act is contradictory, but she doesn't want them to think she's judging them, maybe?
Yeah, it's insubordinate
Yeah.
to insult the people who are above her who are choosing to do this play.
Right, I guess that's what Mary Crawford says when Edmund is like, "I think you should change the play," and she's like, "I can't tell everyone to change the play, that would be, more indecorous than just doing the play." It's kind of, yeah, the same.
Well, I think that's what Mariah says.
Oh, you're right, it was Mariah.
Yeah. I think with Mariah, she's using it as an excuse to be like, "Oh, my hands are tied.
Yeah,
Can't do it. Gotta do this play."
right,
But with Fanny, I think she's genuinely afraid to insult these people.
right,
But she sticks to her guns regardless.
yes.
Even though they're all pressuring her and ganging up on her and insulting her in the process, and even though she knows that her existence there is based solely on her gratitude and her acquiescing to the things they want.
But, like, what are they gonna do, kick her out?
I mean, I don't know.
I guess they could. She's 18.
I mean, there's a real question of, like, this is a perceived conditionality
Yeah.
by everybody. How serious is it is another question entirely.
Yeah, something to think about.
Yeah. Okay. Last question. We get a stunning little portrait of Fanny's little studio loft in Mansfield Park. We see her space. What does it tell us about Fanny's relationship to Mansfield Park itself?
I loved the description of this room, especially the fact that Fanny has 2 spaces that are her own, that nobody else wanted, but that she's made cozy for herself and, like, she's made special. On the one hand, it's like her spaces are separate from everyone else. Everyone else has the living room and the parlor and the whatever rooms.
The massive quarters that Mariah and Julia each have that
Yeah,
make them completely, like, hand wave the playroom.
right, exactly. But Fanny has these, like, kinda secondhand, cornered off spots that are her own, so, like, separate from the rest of the house. So on the one hand, it's like she's really made a home here. On the other hand, her home is completely separated from the rest of the people who live there.
Yeah, it's less grand
Mhm.
and it's less ostentatious, but it is Fanny is laying down her roots at this estate,
Yeah,
and she has made home for herself there
yeah,
in her only way she can.
yeah.
I will leave it at that. Funniest quote?
I'm gonna read, like, a whole interaction.
Yes, I know exactly what you're gonna read.
This is right after Mary Crawford says, "What gentleman among you am I to have the pleasure of making love to?" For a moment no one spoke, and then many spoke together to tell the same melancholy truth, that they had not yet got any Anhalt. Mr. Rushworth was to be Count Castle, but no one had yet undertaken Anhalt. "I had my choice of the parts," said Mr. Rushworth, "but I thought I should like the Count best, though I do not much relish the finery I am to have." "You chose very wisely, I am sure," replied Miss Crawford with a brightened look. "Anhalt is a heavy part." "The Count has 42 speeches," returned Mr. Rushworth, "which is no trifle."
Once again, we have, "Oh, no, you can't play my opposite. Too bad, so shame, so
So
sad."
sad.
So
Yeah,
sad. Mary's like, "Oh, no."
but also every line of Mr. Rushworth's in this entire set of chapters is just, "I have 42 speeches."
Yeah, we've talked about him being dumb, and I think this chapter set is, like, really where you start to see he's, like,
Super
really
dumb.
fucking dumb.
Yeah, 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 yeah. He's not paying attention to what's going on at all.
Not the brightest bulb in the tanning bed, so to speak.
I've never heard that one before, Becca, but I like it.
Just full of them. Questions moving forward.
Will Fanny act? Because I think that they still have more to pressure her on. I think she might. And how will it go with Edmund playing Anhalt? Like, what's gonna happen there?
Who wins the chapters?
I'm gonna give it to Mary Crawford for showing kindness to our girl Fanny.
I like that. I think she deserves to win this chapter.
Yeah.
All right. Listeners, that concludes this episode of Pod and Prejudice. For next time, I believe we're finishing volume the first,
Ooh!
17 and 18. Molly, are you ready for it?
I cannot wait to find out what happens with this dang play.
Well, until next time, stay proper.
And dress up in a little lacy cloak and do 42 speeches.
42 speeches to be exact.
Pod and Prejudice is edited by Molly Burdick and audio produced by Graham Cook. Our show art is designed by Torrance Brown. Our show is transcribed by SpeechDocs Podcast Transcription. For transcripts and to learn more about our team, check out our website at podandprejudice.com. To keep up with the show, you can follow us on social media at Pod and Prejudice. If you love what you hear, check out our Patreon to see how you can support us, buy some merch at podandprejudice.dashery.com, or just drop us a rating and a review wherever you get your podcasts. Stay proper.